Greetings everyone, I'm History Dude and thank you for joining me on our journey through time. Today I'll be sharing with you 5 ugly truths about the Transcontinental Railroad. Although it was a modern marvel at the time, it unfortunately did more harm than good. Number 1. The exploitation of Chinese labor. Chinese received 30 to 50% lower wages than whites for the same job, and they had to pay for their own foodstuffs. They also had the most difficult and dangerous work, including tunneling and the use of explosives. There is also evidence that they faced physical abuse at times from some supervisors. They were denied room and board and had to provide their own tents. Efforts to depict the Transcontinental Railroad as a grand project created by and for white Americans began just moments after the railroad was completed in 1869. This is when a symbolic golden spike was hammered into the ground in Promontory Summit, Utah, where the rails constructed by the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific met. In the ceremonious picture, not one Chinaman is in that photo. Number 2. Near eradication of the Great Plains Native Americans. To facilitate the railroad's passage through the nation's central and western regions, the government granted millions of acres of land to railroad companies that actually belonged to tribal nations. Track was laid across 15 distinct tribal homelands which cut through their hunting grounds, particularly on the Great Plains, drastically reducing access to bison, which were vital for sustenance and cultural practices. It also forced the Plains natives tribes onto smaller reservations, which were often with inadequate land and resources. Not only did the construction displace the natives from their lands, but it also decimated a crucial resource, the buffalo. They were traditionally hunted by Plains tribes such as the Lakota, Arapaho, and Cheyenne for food, shelter, and trade. Number 3. The decimation of the buffalo population. In 1867, the first of 5 railroads split the herd in the heart of the Buffalo Range, a process that was repeated again and again. Provisioners like Buffalo Bill Cody, sportsmen, farmers, and ranchers who carved the prairies for crops and cattle all placed new pressure on bison. The railroads made transportation of the buffalo hides easy and cheap, so market hunters flooded in, wasting 3 to 5 times the numbers they killed. The carnage from herds already depleted by other factors defied description. It's believed that 4 to 5 million bison were killed in 3 years alone. The commercial hunt was finished by the fall of 1883, but by then, the damage was already done and irreversible. Number 4. Environmental impact. The construction of the Transcontinental Railroad had significant negative environmental impacts, primarily including widespread deforestation due to the massive amount of wood needed for railroad ties and infrastructure. Large-scale logging was necessary to acquire lumber for railroad ties, bridges, and support structures, leading to severe depletion of forests in the western regions. While that was happening, the altering of landforms by creating cuts, fills, and tunnels disrupted wildlife habitats and increased the risk of wildfires ignited by train engines during dry periods. The construction process itself involved major modifications to the terrain, including cutting through mountains and creating large embankments which specifically altered the natural landscape. The railroad also bisected previously undisturbed wildlife habitats, disrupting animal migration patterns and leading to population declines. Number 5. Economic instability. The Transcontinental Railroad companies were not necessary for stitching the young country together. They were simply an example of, quote, dumb growth that hurt more than it helped. Sped along by state subsidy and paid for politicians, these corporations built in places where there were no markets. They never made any money. The entire enterprise was a vast Ponzi scheme, and its periodic turmoil threw the nation into repeated economic crisis. Their selfish flailing scourged wildlife, oppressed Native Americans, and spread new settlements to areas that could not be sustained. Thousands of communities in the northern plains states of Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota became railroad ghost towns when the rail lane failed to materialize. I hope you found this video eye-opening. If you have, hit those like and subscribe buttons down below and leave me a comment on your thoughts. I'm your local historian, and that's History Dude.